I know a little bit of this story from being a long-time listener of the podcast, etc. But it would be
the Coronation Street.
Yeah, it would be. It would be awesome just to hear the full. How on earth did this pan out?
Nathan, you want to go ahead?
Sure. Yeah, long-time listener. We've only been around for how many months, Sean? 4 months? 5 months?
Well, I've been there since the start.
6 months.
But if you've been there from the beginning, we'll take that. Even 3 months at this point is a long time. But anyway, so I've been a vegetarian for about 7 years, 6 years, I think. Anyway, so how I got into it, it all started from a New Yorker magazine article that I read. I think it was by Michael Pollan. I can't remember what the title of it was, but it was about the whole idea of compassionate consumption, which I'd never come across before. I never even honestly considered animals and animal rights or anything like that before. I grew up a meat eater, and not just every meal of the day meat, like breakfast, lunch, dinner. It's not a meal if there's no meat, in it. So I never even crossed my mind the idea that we should not be, subjugating and using these animals for pleasure. And then I read that article and I was like, wow, it just hit me. And so I started doing a ton of research, reading, watching videos, watching documentaries, listening to podcasts. And I was like, man, I got to stop eating meat altogether. This compassionate consumption thing, you're still part of the problem. If you're doing any part of the consumption, it's still, it's still problematic. There's no such thing, I thought at the time, as compassionate consumption. I just got to give it up altogether. But that said, I did not. I would tell people about it. I would question. I would go out for beers, whatever, with friends here in the city. We talk about it. We talk about why it's wrong to eat meat, to abuse these animals, and then meanwhile we'd be eating meat.
Right. Big bite of burger.
Yeah, and in fact, so the turning point for me was I was at dinner with my girlfriend at the time, now wife. And we were both eating meat, and I was like, why do you think this is okay? Why do you think this is acceptable? And blah, blah, blah. I just kept testing her and pushing her on it. And, I'm eating a steak. So, she's like, yeah, that's a good, anyway. So she went off, she read some more stuff. 2 weeks later, she's vegetarian and I'm still eating meat. And I'm like, oh my God, I got to stop being a hypocrite and just do this. And so I stopped eating meat. I still remember the last place I ate meat. Awful place here in the city. It's a lot of fun, but it's terrible food. But anyway, that was the last time I ate meat. So I stopped eating meat. I've been a vegetarian for, 6 years. And then I've always felt that I should be a vegan. I felt like that was the morally correct thing to do. But I don't know. I guess it's the same selfishness maybe, or ignorance or naivety, whatever, that kept me from turning vegetarian, even though I thought it was wrong. Maybe is what also kept me from going all the way and becoming vegan. And then, Veganuary hit. Well, I guess we can talk about Forest Green Rovers and all that, but Forest Green Rovers also played a role in this. But yeah, when it was Veganuary, Shyam and I were like, you know what? Let's just do it. I felt like I should be vegan for a long time. Let's just do it, man. This is the opportunity to do it. Let's go vegan for life now. And yeah, ever since January, I've been vegan.
4 months in. Love it.
Yeah, 4 months in. It's awesome.
Over the hump.
That's right. I don't know about that.
Make it Veganuary, you can make it. That's what we tell ourselves, at least. But.
Yeah, 100%. Were you exactly on the same path, Shyam? Or was it sort of slightly different for you?
Yeah, slightly different in that actually I was raised a vegetarian. I come from a South Asian background, was raised Hindu. And so, interestingly enough, both Nathan and I are from a similar part of the United States. So we both now live in New York City on the East Coast. We're both originally from the Midwestern region of the U.S. So that, again, is a huge agricultural part of the country. We grew up in rural areas, so meat was ubiquitous. If you go to a friend's house, they're going to have meat for a meal. And so I was always kind of the odd person out, right? The odd kid out. Because I can't have that. I can't eat that. And my mom was very strict about it too, because it was very, dear. Her culture is very dear to her. And so, I stuck to it, but I was doing it in an unthinking way because this is just how we do it in my family, and I love the food we had at home. We had like South Indian cuisine, so it's like no shortage of really tasty food. So I never felt like I was wanting for anything. Except maybe when I was sick. And again, this goes to show how you think of things as when you're a kid. I have these vivid memories of when I would be sick at home, like sick from school, and I'd have a fever and you could only really eat like toast or a little bit of water. Like I would see these like McDonald's and Burger King commercials where it's like the giant like burgers would come up on screen. And it wasn't until years later that I realized that there's a job called being a food makeup artist.
Yes.
Yeah, where it's their job to make the stuff look incredibly delicious and glistening and like it's just like floated down from heaven into your mouth or something. But I just remember I was like, oh man, I want that so bad. So it's like the power of advertising, But I just stuck with my culture. But my culture is also very dairy centric. Like we could not live, within my culture, like everything we have, sweets and festivals, it has some dairy component and we're big yogurt consumers. So again, it wasn't until similar to Nathan when I started to do a little more reading, when I started to branch out and think about the moral and philosophical implications of what I'm choosing to put in my body, that, I had to realize, hey, even though there's a big part of this that's near and dear to me, like this comfort food, this culture part of it that is intertwined with dairy, I got to think about where it's coming from, and what is the cost of being able to do it. And it was a lot of things, not to get like too deep, but then it's like you really, as an immigrant to the United States, so I was born in India and moved here when I was very young, like forging an identity in a foreign country as an immigrant, you want so badly to fit in. You want so badly to be a part, assimilate as best you can, while still, being proud of where you're from and who you are. So, these questions, whether I was like totally conscious of them or not, have kind of, I think, been in my mind for a long time. So, it's a bit of a loaded question, but I think just like Nathan, you have to, at some point you have to think about what the choice you want to make is. And then how do you fit into a system? Are you trying to make things better? Are you trying to reduce a little bit of maybe what you don't feel is going right in the world? And I think that's eventually how I came into veganism. And like Nathan said, we got into Forest Green Rovers a little bit. We both have been soccer fans for a long time, or football, as it's correctly called in the UK. But, probably since the early 2000s when we were younger, it's a big push in this country where we've got a lot of young soccer fans. So we've grown up with the sport and admired it. And so this mix of a sport we really enjoy and the moral and ethical philosophy of this club was just super appealing. And I think it's really spurred us on to become vegan.
Yeah, I definitely need to get onto obviously the Forest Green stuff, because I'm really intrigued as to how you even came across a League Two club from from sort of a very rural area of the UK with a growing fan base, and obviously an international one. They're a very unique club, but still a very, on the footballing landscape, a pretty small club. So we definitely want to get into that. But before we do, I'm just really intrigued as to Midwest backgrounds for both of you and that upbringing, like you say, and certainly my view of American culture from afar. I've been a few times to New York. I've been to San Francisco once as well, and so it's limited experience, and certainly that kind of the coastal probably experience as well. So I'm really intrigued as to growing up amongst that agricultural kind of background, and what it was to be American, and this whole kind of vibe. What your families and friends back home have said since you've both said, do you know what, we're going to go the whole hog. We're banging to Forest Green Rovers. We're not eating any animal products. Has everyone thought you've completely gone mad, taken leave of your senses, or is everybody kind of with you?
No, the former. Got made fun of so much when I first went vegetarian. Oh my God, I never heard the
really.
And friends from family. It's all joking and it's all good nature, but that's kind of like what we always do is just go after each other. But always got made fun of big time. a lot of also some people trying to be genuine, but not understanding what it means. So like, oh, but you can eat chicken though, right? No, I can't eat chicken either. So a lot of stuff like that. I think over time, everyone's become a lot more understanding of it and respectful. Not just because it's, they've experienced it with me, but it's animal rights, I think, are really like taking off now. I think a way more, I would love to see the numbers, but I'm sure it's so much, it's in people's consciousness now that in a way it was never was before, in terms of like reaching the masses, reaching people, from hillbilly lands, like where I'm from. It was definitely an adjustment. Even now when I go back, my mom's always like, I have no idea what to, what to make you, what should eat. Yeah, exactly. Where are you going to eat? Thanksgiving too is brutal. Thanksgiving is really tough because there's like nothing there that's not, only mashed potatoes, I think is the only, I can't even have those anymore actually, because they have butter. They always put butter in them. So yeah, there's like nothing I can eat at Thanksgiving.
Nathan, I'm going to hook you up. We found a really good vegan mashed potatoes recipe.
Let's
go. A little bit of plant-based butter, so we'll hook you up. Let's
go. But yeah, no. But overall, it's been good. And I think I know my parents have both started eating more healthy, more vegetables, less meat. I don't know if necessarily. I don't think it's for moral reasons, but I think it's. And they see me doing it. They know that it's also a healthy. It's something you can do. That's good for your body. So they've been doing that. I'd love to get them into the moral aspects of it. I sent them Seaspiracy. I sent them Cowspiracy. They haven't watched it yet, but I'm going home actually in a few weeks, so I'm gonna try to like force it upon them to watch and just make people question their behavior. But yeah.
How about for you, Shai? What's it been like for you with the family and so on?
Well, probably the most my mom has assimilated to American culture was how incredulous she was that I was giving up dairy. So it's like, it only took her 30 years, but it's like, hey, Mom, you're like everyone else. You're just looking at your son weird for saying he's vegan. So, she's been supportive, but again, just like she's so, she's so proud of her culture. And, it's like she's lived a majority of her life living that lifestyle. And you think about how difficult it may be to change later in life. Not that it's impossible. And, like you mentioned, the farmer, like from the Alex Lockwood movie, it's definitely not impossible. But it's just, I think it's such a strange idea because to her, this idea within Hinduism of holding the cow sacred, it's like, using the products from the cow, that means, it's something a cow naturally gives. So it's like the symbiosis between two organisms. I think that's the way she looks at it, but she hasn't looked deeper into what the systems are, to produce so much milk, the issues that are really underlie it. And so, that naivete is there, but at the same time, it's like, it's so wedded to her culture that everyone makes their own decision. But I try to tell my mom, well, these are the reasons why I've decided to do it. And I don't regret growing up Hindu. I don't regret having that, I think almost like a head start for the respect of animals, but now it's just taking the next step.
Yeah.
She's very supportive of that.
I can relate. I mean, my mum's side of the family are from India too, and I know exactly what you're saying. How dairy is just it's just so part of the culture.
Yeah.
But I often think maybe there's an element of the upbringing that my mum talks about, which was kind of the 50s in India, like in Varanasi, that kind of area of India.
Wow, okay. Yeah.
And that upbringing they talk about is much. It's about small holdings. It's about there was a cow that you milked, yourself, or somebody in your household milked themselves, and it wasn't about removal of the young and so on and so forth. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that as a vegan now that I agree with it, but I can understand why, if that was how that is so divorced from what we've got now, in terms of like the mechanization of this process and the kind of brutal factory nature of it, that I can understand that unless you see that directly, it would be difficult to say, well, actually, that is very different from what I was brought up doing. So, I'm kind of with you on that when it's so deep. it does seem like, well, what's the problem here?
Right. Yeah. And again, even for me, sometimes, and, I think it's sort of ascribed to Americans in general that we're happy-go-lucky. I do think overall we're optimistic, but sometimes it comes at the expense of acknowledging realities, like the unpleasantness of certain things. And you brought up antibiotic resistance and like the crowding of animals, in dairies and in factory hens and stuff, right? So we're a land of plenty, and there's plenty of food, and there's also plenty that goes to waste here. But we tend to focus on that more than what is the process? We don't think about the means a whole lot, which I think Nathan and I have only become a little more attuned to the past few years.
Yeah, well, 100%. It's a process. Even I've been in it 4 years, and in that 4 years, there's still things every day that I find out that I was shocked by. I'm kind of like, I suppose, feel like, I think you can feel as like, once you've attributed the label vegan to yourself, you can sort of think, well, I've done it now. I'm doing everything that I can, and then you find there's still more. Like, I think the sort of the definition is, we need to remember the definition, as far as is possible and practicable, because it's so intrinsic into so many things. It's almost impossible to remove. Like, if you spend a $5, that £5 note has got byproducts from pigs in. It's in the physical cash that we use.
Right.
Yeah.
There's talk about sort of symbolic. It's the very financial fabric. So it's crazy. It's almost impossible to have that completist kind of view. I think.
Would you say, Jim, that was like the thing that kind of blew your mind the most, or what blew your mind the most that you found out, like used animal products, or kind of pierced the veil of veganism?
I think it's difficult to say one singular thing. I know it's very pertinent at the moment, but I think until even doing the podcast, so I'd gone vegan, and I was probably in episode 18. If I remember rightly, which was like February of 2020, something like that. And when I interviewed Captain Hammerstead from Sea Shepherd, and I felt awful because I hadn't realised the scale of what was going on in the oceans. I know this is very topical and very sort of in the zeitgeist with Seaspiracy, etc. But I genuinely, until he told me the things he told me, that if you have a plate of shrimp in front of you at a restaurant, that there's essentially like 10 to 20 plates of other seafood that have been pulled from the ocean, killed, and essentially thrown for that one plate of shrimp. The devastation. I just don't think I had any. I think I'd been, like everybody, probably sold the idea that fishing was like, this image of the sort of the in the UK, this kind of like the Cornish fisherman, with the little hat the hipsters wear now, and the ones that are right on the top, and the pipe and the beard, and he went out and he sung sea shanties, and he came back early in the morning with his catch and he fed the village, and
also making a comeback, sea shanties.
That's true.
Yeah, I think we can do those. They're perfectly vegan. You can sing sea shanties all you like. So don't worry. I'm not going to drop that bombshell on you. Then I found out that sea shanties were. They're safe. You're fine. I'm sure that in New York, it's probably in Brooklyn somewhere. There's probably a bar devoted to the sea shanties.
No question. I guarantee you that there are sea shanty singing groups, multiple tens. I'm sure in the city. No question. No question.
That's going to be like our version of Eurovision in the next couple of years. So, not even kidding.
There's a movement. There's definitely a movement somewhere, and it's probably already not cool anymore. It's probably happened. Like it last 10 minutes ago, it happened, and now it's dead.
Yeah. 10 minutes it'll come back, so it's all good.
That's right.
Keep the sea shanty in the back pocket. It's going to come back.
It'll come back. So I think that the scale of the devastation in the oceans, I think, because I think everyone can get behind the image of a Japanese whaling fleet. I think everyone's behind that image. No one thought it was their cod. Their cod and chips that was the problem.
Right.
And I think the preponderance of media, especially these films that strike such a stark visual image for people, right, is really great and has raised awareness. I don't know if you guys have heard of this novelist Jonathan Safran Foer.
Yes.
Yeah, he wrote Everything is Illuminated, Extremely Loud, Incredibly Close. He wrote a nonfiction book called Eating Animals. And so I think that was really seminal for me too, getting a chance to read that, because he did a chapter on fishing, and I think I forget what the exact term is. Is it bykill?
Bycatch.
Bycatch, right?
Yeah.
Of all the other plates that go into your one plate of shrimp, as you just mentioned, Jim.
Yeah.
And he just had 3 straight pages of one block of paragraph. These are all the things that get caught in there, and listing all the different species, and just seeing that as I read, I was like, oh wow, I finally see the scope of this. It's not it's not somebody out there with an assassin sharpshooting, like you said, your cod to make it to the frozen aisle, but this is in fact how they can provide this volume of seafood by having this means of obtaining it. So that really was an eye-opener, similar to watching these films and getting the raw visuals.
There's almost something I think about the ocean or about sea life that feels alien to us as humans, so it's okay, because I think I can't remember whether it was Captain Hammerstead or somebody, or it might have been Jonathan Safran Foer who said it, but if people were to, in order to get a pound of beef, were collecting up all the great land animals. They were collecting up giraffes and elephants and lions and just killing them. That there would be outcry. People would go crazy. Even the most hardened meat eaters would be because you see this on Twitter all the time, don't you? You see folks who hardened meat eaters. They're literally eating a burger, furious at somebody with a dead lion and a rifle, and rightly so. I mean, it's disgusting and deplorable, but. If we're talking about loss of life, it's the same entity.
Absolutely.
You've killed and paid for that killing. So it's remarkable, the disconnect. We have this weird hierarchy of is it pretty enough to save? Is it, if it's on the land, it's different to in the ocean? It's all this crazy stuff.
Anyway. Speciesism. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I remember in Eating Animals, Foer was also out of necessity sometimes, in the Philippines, I believe, or maybe it was Indonesia, some folks had the habit of cooking and eating dog meat. You know? But if you were to tell that to somebody in New York or in Brooklyn, they'd be like, what?
Yeah, it's exactly.
They would just lose their minds.
Right.
But what really is the difference, right? It's what's available to them and it's what's feeding them, but it's, I guess... Again, we can get political. I know you delve into the philosophical side of things on this pod, but yeah, man, we just have a really strong advertising system here.
We do,
it's tough to see beyond that.
Absolutely. I think about I don't know why. I just the other day I was thinking about Michael Vick. Do you know Michael Vick, Jim?
Yeah, is he the US football player with the dogfighting?
Exactly. Yeah. Which was awful. Of course, that was a terrible action. He went to prison for it. But then you think about that's legalized in so many other in so many other places in the form of factory farming. Not even legalized, it's subsidized. Our government is encouraging the torture of animals, and this one guy tortures animals, which is awful. He goes to prison. Others, make a profit. It's just this logical inconsistency that exists really all over the world. And I think Shyam was right. It's marketing. It's money in politics. It's And it's just like speciesism and ignorance. Like, we know dogs, we know cats, we're familiar with them, we feel comfortable with them, like we feel like they're, you know, one of us, and we don't want to hurt them. But a whale, a cow, like most of us don't have, you know, pet whales or pet cows, so it's like just like you said, like kind of alien, foreign to us. So yeah, it's okay to torture them, to take their lives, because, you know, they're not our, you know, I don't know, we don't have a relationship with them.
100%. It's like the Pulp Fiction scene with where they're in the diner and Samuel L. Jackson and are talking about he says he doesn't eat pigs.
Yeah.
Right.
And he's like, well, you wouldn't eat a dog or whatever, and he's like, yeah, it would have to be a charming pig. You know, that whole thing.
Yeah, right.
It is as silly as that.
Yeah.
Like purely down to, well, I like this dog because he goes for a walk with me.
Yep.
It's just craziness. But talking of New York, you know, and thinking about New York specifically, and I'm saddened to say that when I last went to New York, so I'm a big hockey fan, and that's kind of my so kind of perhaps I should do a podcast about like a really niche hockey team.
You should.
I should probably do that.
The Wheeling Nailers, that was my local team back growing up. Because you got to do like a lower level team, just like we followed the Forest Green Rovers. You got to do like, you can't do an NHL team. It's got to be
Wheeling Nailers
in Wheeling, West Virginia.
Nailers.
Wheeling Nailers, like a nail.
Cool.
That was my local team. That's right, Wheeling, West Virginia. Get that Wheeling feeling. You should. That can be your team.
I'm starting the Wheeling Nailers podcast. It starts next week.
Let's go. Let's
go Nailers. I love it. So so I was a big fan of I am a big fan of hockey, but I haven't been to New York since so it was the last day of the Obama administration. It was the 19th of January 2016 when I left. That's right, isn't it? If I got my dates right.
Probably right.
I've got a copy of the New York Times from that day, and I've kept it.
Nice, yeah.
from the last day of like before like things went even weirder and the world.
It's a polite way of putting it.
But I wasn't vegan back then, so I went vegan in that March, I think it was, that April of 2016. So sort of 4 or 5 years now. And so at the time, the places I was going to eat were like Cat's Deli and, you know, things like that, you know, all the touristy kind of things that
roast beef sandwich, right, Reuben?
Yeah, like that. And I've got these like, now they look like really gruesome pictures on my phone of like, you know, these sandwiches and stuff. But just thinking about your experience like in New York now, and I appreciate it's got COVID time, so you've probably not been out and about since you guys have gone like fully vegan. But what's the offering like in New York now? I'd imagine it's a pretty vegan friendly city.
It is. Yeah, it is. It could definitely be more vegan friendly though. It's a lot of it is concentrated in a few areas like downtown, Lower Manhattan and Brooklyn. There are definitely vegan places, you know, all over the city, but I think a majority of the options are concentrated in a specific area, and really it's kind of like class based, but it's expanding. It's actually where Shyam and I live, there's a really famous vegan place, and there's a couple more that have just opened up or just about to open up. I saw, so it's growing, definitely growing. It's good. But there should be more. There definitely should be more, especially considering it's 2021. Considering where we are in the world, considering how progressive you would think New York City would be, there should be more vegan options than there are. I don't know. What do you think, Shyam?
Yeah, I mean, I think even from when I was a kid, because kind of like I mentioned, like it was very easy to feel like the odd person out growing up in a smaller town in the Midwest. So compared to that, New York is like, oh yeah, we can eat. We can, you know, if I needed to go to a vegan place, I could do it. It's convenient. But like Nathan said, for the, you know, idea that we have of New York City maybe being a progressive bastion or trying to build the movement or make it an inclusive movement, I feel like that is kind of on the cusp. It's growing, but it hasn't like hit that critical mass yet. And again, like sometimes, you know, because again, what do you think of when you think of like New York City food? What's like the consummate New York City food?
What's the staple of New York City food, Jim?
Like pizza, like burgers, pizza. Like it's It's the Cats experience, like the places that I've got a really good friend who's from like upstate, and he I bet lives over here. He's like a British citizen now, and he gave me a list of recommendations, and it was like Dinosaur Barbecue,
right,
Grimaldi's,
great pizza spot.
There's another pizza place on Bleecker Street that he recommended. I can't remember.
Joe's, maybe?
Probably John's.
Yeah, Joe's.
Yeah, Joe's or John's. There's like two, yeah.
Yeah, it was Joe's, I think, and Dinosaur Barbecue. Did I mention that one? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there's like there was this list of and Cats, obviously. It was like you need to go to all these places. Yeah. But when I look back now, every single one of them was about eating large quantities of
welcome to America
animal flesh.
Oh yeah,
the American way.
But I think what Sean was getting at there is like, you know what, Sean and I are both really missing. Obviously, who isn't a pizza lover? Like we all love pizza, and there's very few vegan pizza options here. There's a great place called Double Zero, but it's in the Lower East Side. And it's, not very accessible. If you're down there, it's awesome, but we don't live down there. And, there's dollar slice places everywhere. We need some vegan dollar slice places. We get pizza now without the cheese, but it's not the same. We need a vegan, vegan pizza spot. So that's what I'm looking for. Someone out there, if you're listening, you live in New York City, start a vegan pizza shop.
There's somebody who owns one who's like going nuts now, going, come to my place.
Yeah.
Man, get a better social media team. We need to hear about you.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
No, but I think what Nathan's getting at is like we need to be like, because kind of living here, it's part of the lifestyle. Like, hey, I'm on the run. I gotta head to the train. Let me stop by the slice place and grab a slice. Going to like this Double Zero place. It's like, oh, that's our fancy night out. Let's have a date down there. Let's do a dinner out there. But we would just have to see it become integrated in people's lives a little more.
Yeah, and cater to all people here, because like I said, it's very classist right now. It's very most of the vegan options cater to the wealthy, and they don't have options for people who are for everyday New Yorkers. For the regular people. So we I don't know. That's something else that has to change. There has to be more affordable options for everybody, so everyone can get involved in this.
Oh, yeah, although one big movement has been with Impossible Meat and Beyond Meat. So they're like infiltrating the franchises. So Burger King has their like Whopper, which is Impossible. I think Dunkin' Donuts, which is a huge coffee place over here, you may have visited when you were here. They have like a Beyond Meat sandwich. So those are the places where people, again, where it's not like classist. Tons of people go there, whether you're rich or poor, to grab a quick bite. So I think the visibility is getting much better with kind of those companies signing up. The
other issue too, though, I guess we're getting off topic, but there's so many food deserts here as well. Especially again in poor neighborhoods, which are certainly classist, racist. But if you, Chum and I actually work in a very poor neighborhood, and you'll be hard pressed to find a grocery store. It's just fast food everywhere. It's a problem all over the U.S. These food deserts that are predominantly in poor and non-white, parts of cities and parts of the country. Huge problem, and that's anyway. I guess that's,
right,
that's
Nathan,
completely off topic.
I'm going to outwoke you right now. Even the term like food desert has been like become slightly outdated because people are like activists are starting to call it like food apartheid. Because again, it's like not necessarily like when you think of a desert, you think of a place that naturally occurs. Oh, this is a place that naturally occurs that doesn't have.
This is purposeful.
This is planning.
That's a good point.
Is poor planning.
This is designed.
Exactly, by design. So I get it. I think I agree with the rationale.
Yeah. So forgive my ignorance, so that because I think we've got similar things in London to be honest. But so the notion here is that the likes of, and forgive my brands probably are wrong, but the likes of your Dunkin' Donuts or your Subways, your IHOPs, those kind of the cheap eateries that are selling pretty much junk, nutritionally speaking, target these areas.
Absolutely,
and getting good quality food is just outpriced. You're priced out the market.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's
a
crazy,
crime,
like,
man. It's awful, but sorry.
It is sickening, really is. Like when you think about like the price of, and that certainly happens over here in the UK. I think it's the same thing. You look at the price of, I don't know, like even in a supermarket, you go to a supermarket, a Tesco's or an Asda or a Sainsbury's or whatever here, for £1 you'll get a Goodfellas whatever pizza, frozen meat feast, full of carcinogens and death. For £2 a bag of salad, or roast or vegetables that you could roast or you could stew or whatever, like a bag of fresh veg would be like £2. So like if you are on a tight budget as a family, like what are you going to buy?
Exactly.
It's not a choice of, like we can all say as pretty comfortable vegans that well, it's only £2 for some veg and so on. But if your choice is £2 for that or £1 for that pizza, then what are you going to do?
Exactly. When you got to pay the rent, you got to pay your bill. Like, it's a crime. And I think that's where, well, I don't know. I mean, I'm guessing like a big part of it is government subsidies. Like government subsidize the meat industry a lot, and that allows them to have lower prices, which allows them to continue to. Well, anyway,
it's in our society, everything is so like interwoven. Because it's like the big companies also like have contracts with school districts. So it's like pizza is considered veg in school because there's tomato sauce on it. So the kids have their veg for the day. So it's like
that's outrageous.
It's wild, and that's why I think it's so interesting to us too. I mean, of course we've talked about the moral, and I think we're going to get to Forest Green eventually. You can tell we have a lot to say.
I can see a path there.
When we talk about individual choices and stuff, like, hey, I want to make sure I'm vegan. I want to make sure, hey, I'm maybe not buying as much disposable plastics, or reducing my fossil fuel or carbon footprint. But really, it has to be on a higher level for things to get where they need to be. For the world to avert these crises and these these bad outcomes that we talked about, whether it's like the climate change, whether it's these like pandemics from that are resistant to the drugs we have, like we have to try to avert it. So it's like it's interesting seeing how we can get a lot of people to do that, and that's why Forest Green Rovers is like such a cool idea to us, because it's not just one individual, although they do have a very charismatic chairman in Dale Vince, and his PR and his like I guess ability to go out there and charm is a huge part of it. But the fact that there can be a club that represents sport and stand for like an organization that's like, hey, we can do this as a community, like that is what's really kind of cool to me, and I think Nathan too.
No, I'm with you. It's such a unique area as well, I think, to have gone into. It's not one that people expect, and I think Dale was very purposeful in his choice of football, because it's we talk about class systems and so on. In the UK, football is is very much a working class tradition. When you look at most of the clubs that exist, most of them came from some kind of industry club back in like the late 1800s. So you take, I know you guys are big football fans, so you know this history already, but for those who don't, like the likes of West Ham United, for example, used to be Thames Ironworks FC, that and that was in 1895. So they were shipbuilders, in the East End of London. It's tough life there, and they they were building ships and played football for recreation. And that's become this club. So, and that's still woven into as much as that, it's been. Well, I don't know if you guys are aware of the sort of the UK term in football of the prawn sandwich brigade, but that's
no, I don't know that.
So this is a term that I think it was Roy Keane, who you may know as an ex Man United midfielder and now kind of like clickbait type of pundit, like says things to get some clicks. Right. But he's troll on the team. He's got good opinions, but they're obviously designed to get people to pile in on the debate. But when he was a player, I think he said that football's being taken over by the prawn sandwich brigade, i.e. like the kind of capitalist interest, if you like. So it was, I think it was at the time actually when Man United were purchased by the Glazers and so on, and the idea that now the average supporter, like the working class supporter, was priced out of the game. This is still very much a thing that's going on. It's 50, 60, 70 pounds a ticket for a Premier League game now, which, if you're a mum or dad with a child, 2 kids to go to a game, you just can't afford to do that anymore. So it's not this working class game, but it's fascinating that, football being the target of Forest Green, because it's so, like I say, it's so woven into the fabric of working class life, football. And that's often an area that is targeted by, like you say, fast food, by cheap eating, by animal agriculture, and so on. So yes, it's a fascinating point that they've kind of targeted that area. On that note, how on earth did both of you discover Forest Green Rovers?
So I'll start, since I think I'm the earlier of the two. So I found them actually 2 or 3 years ago, maybe, in FIFA on PlayStation. So I was looking for a League 2 team to bring up to the Premier League. Yep. And I saw this team with this crazy, ridiculous, bright green kits. And I was like, this cannot be this got to be a glitch. There's no way this is a real team. So I Googled them, and I was like, oh my God. I found out, first that they're the greenest club in the world. They're doing all this amazing stuff for the environment. I also found out that they were a vegan club. And, both of those values are really, really important to me. Even though I wasn't a vegan, again, I was a vegetarian at the time, but I still felt like everyone should be vegan, or everyone who can afford to be anyway should be vegan. Just aligned with my values. So I started following a couple years ago, and because I was just thinking, if I'm going to put my time into football, I should do it for a team that I think is doing good in the world. And so I was like, all right, I'm going to follow this team. But, it's hard to follow League 2 from the US. So I was just kind of following on the internet.
Hard to follow over here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I'm just, looking watching the internet, watching YouTube, watching highlights, following along. And then finally, this year, I hit up Shyam one day, had a few too many beers, and I wrote out my manifesto to Shyam, why we should start this podcast. There's some ridiculous stuff in that manifesto, but anyway, and I was totally hey, Shyam, the next morning, whatever, I was like, Shyam, just disregard that text last night. Stupid idea. Don't worry about it. But anyway,
I was drunk.
Shyam was like, no, let's do it. And I was like, all right, let's do it.
You managed not to send any explicit pictures along with the text. Let's do it. I take it seriously.
It must not. It must not have sent.
Yeah.
It just didn't upload.
Yeah, thank God.
So anyway, this year we started following, seriously following. We've watched every match, and the pod was our kind of way of documenting our experience, and also an attempt, I guess, to try to bring others in who are like us, who are outsiders, who have no connection to Gloucestershire at all, but simply appreciate what the club is doing off the pitch and want to support from wherever they are. So we wanted to be kind of like that gateway in for guys who were just like us, because we were, me anyway, I was following for a couple of years, but I had no way to really connect with the club. And so that's kind of what we've been trying to do, and just have fun along the way. Cause we're dumb. We don't know what we're talking about. We have no football, knowledge. So we're not like the guys who are going to analyze every part of the game. No, that's not us. But
as much as we'd like to be a hipster podcast, it's not happening. You don't have the knowledge.
So I think that I guess that's how I got into it. That's kind of how the podcast started. Shyam,
I think Nathan put it very nicely. For me, the first I'd heard of Forest Green Rovers was probably by reading about them in The Guardian. So back to my college days, I was really into the writing of George Monbiot, who I know is a writer for The Guardian, and he used to have a column there. And so just getting into his experiences and how he would characterize the world. And so, The Guardian became a paper that I would just kind of keep in line with to learn about what's going on in the UK. And of course, I was trying to get ready for Jeopardy. Do you know what Jeopardy is, Jim? Have you heard of Jeopardy?
Yes.
Okay.
The game show.
The game show, yeah. So that's the highest honor. If you make it on Jeopardy, you've entered, hallowed. The hallowed pantheon, but so keeping abreast of world events. I read The Guardian, so I'd heard about this club that was carbon neutral and really pushing the the frontiers of being green and bringing it into how the club operates. I was like, wow, this is really cool. But then I just kind of left it because I'm an Arsenal supporter. I was like, can I really get into League Two? Is this really going to be something I can commit hours of my life to? And so just kind of, every once in a while I'd see an article. But then, Nathan drunk texted me and, propositioned me in the best sort of way. But no, I kind of thought about it. And it's like some part of the Premier League game, like you mentioned, and, using Roy Keane's term, the prawn shop, the prawn sandwich sort of thing. It's a little slick. It's involving a lot of oil money from the Middle East. There's a lot of ethical considerations with the World Cup coming up in Qatar and the labor that's used. Yeah. So even though the football is wonderful to watch, and the reason I got into Arsenal and soccer in the first place was Arsenal and the way they played football. Again, the more you learn about it and you grow up, you're like, well, is this representing what I want the world to be? And so when Nathan mentioned it, I was like, wow, I actually think this is something that I'm truly interested to learn about. And recognize I know nothing about this little club on top of the hill, know nothing about Nailsworth or Gloucestershire. But man, it would be awesome to take this journey with Nathan and just learn about it and talk to people and build that sense of community that I think many American football fans want. Because, that's what we view as authentic, is hey, you have a club you love, and you get to know something about them, or you feel welcomed by them. And that's how we felt with every interaction we've had with someone that's either represented Forest Green Rovers, like the club itself, or a supporter that we've talked to. And so we've, I would say fallen head over heels. And we feel that personal connection now more than just I'm going to wear my Arsenal kit, even though I still do that, I'm going to wear my fly Arsenal kit today. Still got to look fly, but it's just that deeper connection that I feel now personally. Yeah. What do you think, Nathan?
Yeah, I just want to jump in there. I especially about the last thing that you said, definitely have the deeper connection because of the people we now know who are players, who are part of the staff, who are fans. But even more than that, and all along, I feel like, and maybe this is not, I don't know, naive of me, but I feel like when Forest Green does well, that's a positive thing, because that's getting the message, the green message, the vegan message out there even more. It's amplifying these really positive messages. And so I feel like when I'm rooting for Forest Green to win, I'm not just rooting for, just a football team to win a, meaningless game. Yeah. I'm rooting for a message to get out there. And it just makes, I don't know, it just makes you feel so, it's awesome. I've just like Shyam, I've fallen in love with the club, and
you get kind of giddy talking about it. A lot of tee-heeing before the pod.
That's right.
Wasn't this player so dreamy? That sort of thing.
I feel much the same. I really do. And I totally relate to what you said there about the connection with the club. I think there's not just a connection with aligning with your ethics, but a connection that doesn't exist within professional sport very often these days. As a fan of West Ham, when I'm not a fan of Forest Green, as a fan of the New York Rangers, you're not, and of going to Madison Square Garden, it feels like you're going to a Broadway show. It's great, but it's, you go to a thing, you see the thing, everyone's everyone's A-list, if you like, and then you're nobody. You're not, there's no connection to it. Right. But whereas Forest Green, you've like you say, every time they win, you feel like there's a talking point somewhere about the food, their belief systems, their ethics. The fact that the pitch hasn't got animal products on it, and that's got to be sowing seeds somewhere. Yep, I optimistically, I hope. And having been on the terraces and heard opposition fans singing "Where's Your Sausage Rolls" and all that sort of thing, I think it's obviously somewhere in people's psyche. Yeah,
absolutely.
And I've genuinely heard people down there, away fans and so on, saying, buying a burger and doing it really begrudgingly, kind of oh, we've got to eat this, haven't we? 'Cause there's nothing else here. And then as they're eating it, going, this is actually pretty nice. That whole thing.
The epiphany.
Even if they go there once, as an away fan, once a year, and as a home fan, you go 40 times a year, and that's the only time you eat vegan, and you're immersed in that. I'm sure it sows seed somewhere.
Absolutely, yeah. I think making any change comes like changing your behavior is not just like one single, you see one thing and then boom, you change it. I think it's like a bunch of different touch points, and I think Forest Green is one of those. Just like you said, sows the seeds. You go to Forest Green, you learn about the message, you have a vegan burger, whatever. All right, that's now in the back of your mind. Then you see this other thing, and you connect it to that experience, and you see this other thing, you connect to that experience. Yeah. So yeah, I agree. I think it's powerful. And Shyam and I have talked with a lot of away fans actually, because sometimes we'll bring on opposition podcasts leading up to games, and we always ask them, like, what do you think of Forest Green Rovers off the pitch? And by everyone who's actually spoken to, like, admires what they're doing off the pitch. Those who have been to the ground, like, compliment the food. And so I think we've seen it. It's sowing seeds, just like you said, in all around the UK and really all around the world.
100%. Yeah, 100%. And it honestly is. You will not get better food out of a British football ground. Even in you go to the Premier League, you'll pay 15 quid for a veggie burger or something. You'll pay some obscene amount of money for something that is awful.
That's what we've heard.
Just because you're there.
Yep.
Like I've been a few times to England games at Wembley, and it's just outrageous. Like there's like a falafel and chips option that they do there now, which, to be fair, is progress. Right. But it's dry and it was ridiculous money. Like, there is no way that any working class sort of family could pay for the ticket, the transport. It's completely priced anybody normal out of the market. You go to Forest Green, and A, it's not expensive, and B, it's genuinely good food. Like, people go there just because the food's good.
We've heard that. That's awesome.
We're itching to try it, and after talking to Jade, and
August.
I think this might have pushed me over the edge to be more optimistic. I'm hungry now. You're not just make decisions when you're hungry, but here I am. So, booking a ticket.
You can make this one. You can make this decision. It's absolutely fine. I've got to ask, like, in your sort of when you sent that drunk text, Nathan, and Shy, when you received it, and you thought, okay, this sounds cool, let's do it. This would be a bit of fun. Did you ever at that point think that you'd be chatting with the chairman, many of the players, the head chef?
No, not at all. No.
Even if they were League Two, did you think there's no way we're going to get that kind of exposure?
No way. I thought that our wives are going to listen to it, and maybe not even them. Nobody's going to listen to this.
The stretch goal was my mother-in-law. Maybe we'll get my mother-in-law to listen.
Yeah, exactly. So no, we have just been shocked by like how kind and gracious and warm, and really what a football family it is. Because I know we've talked about it already, but Forest Green is a family, and everyone's humble, everyone's kind, everyone's like gracious and hospitable, and like, come on in, which is so cool and not expected, because we're these two outsiders. We have no connection to, and we're also two idiots. We have no idea what we're talking about when it comes to football. And
most football fans don't. I wouldn't worry about
it. Fair enough. But everyone's been
shouting things incoherent on a Saturday afternoon. That's what you're there to do.
Well, maybe that's how they recognized us.
We fit right in. Then we fit right in.
Fans. Incoherent shouting into a microphone.
These guys are the real deal.
Exactly.
But no, we had no expectation of this. Well, actually, part of my pitch, which still hasn't happened yet, I think one of the top points of my pitch, like as Shyam said, Shyam's an Arsenal fan. So one of the top points of my pitch was like, you need a way to meet Hector Bellerin, and you don't have one right now. This is your way in. That was one of the points on the manifesto to convince him that we haven't done it yet. But
after which beer was that bullet point inscribed?
At that point, was he an investor? I'm not sure he was it?
I think
he was. He bought in like right before. I think he bought in August or September, maybe.
Yeah.
Was it August? Because we didn't start the pod.
The end of the summer.
End of the summer. We didn't start. We watched a few games first before we started the pod, So we didn't start the pod on match week 1. We started it, I don't know, match week 9, match week 10, something like that. So we had been around. So by the time we decided to start the pod, Hector was a established investor, shareholder.
Nice. Yeah. Have you reached out to him yet?
Not yet. We got to do it though, Shimmy.
We'll do it. You know, the momentum is there. So that was Nathan's carrot that he dangled in front of me. And I was like, hey, this is vegan. So I was like, let's do it.
There we go.
Let's do it.
But no, what
so we haven't received the stick yet. We're still waiting for that.
Right.
We're waiting for someone to just shut us down completely and say, no, what are you? You're ridiculous. No, you can't ask that.
But
now you've had Dale on, I think you're fine. You've got the big
Boss
man's
man.
you got the big man's approval, so you're fine. No one from the PR at Forest Green is going to go, hold on, guys, this is too much at this point.
They've been awesome too, though. By the way, they've been awesome. Although we didn't know, because we never, we're brand new to this. We have no idea what we're doing in the podcasting world and in life. We don't know what we're doing. But so we had Jade on, we had Chris Stokes, the captain, on. I think that was it. And then the club reached out to us and they were like, hey guys, can you you need to let us know when you're going to have people on, because we need to keep track of everything. And we're like, oh crap, we didn't even think about that. But yeah, you're absolutely right. We should, so now ever since then we've been in communication with them, and they've been awesome, man. Shout out to Connor, shout out to Noah, and everyone who's on the on the FGR team. They've been so nice and so helpful and kind, and awesome crew.
So at the beginning, were you just reaching out to people directly and saying, hey, do you want to come on my podcast?
Yeah. So
follow
it all
them
started
on social
with
media and ask.
and really the plan all along was just to do fans. Like we wanted to have locals on and just to talk about their experience as a fan, and then maybe recap the game with them, whatever. We never planned, or we thought like we said that it would reach the levels of Dale Vince or players or Jade. But what happened was once you start having people on, they're like, oh, let me connect you to this person. Oh, let me they've been so nice. And that's how we've gotten so many, so many really cool people on. Is someone connects us, then someone else connects. So just again, it's the family. It's a football family. Everyone loves everyone. Everyone takes care of each other. It's so cool.
100%. So we're coming. We've been chatting for a while now, but just finally, the plans for the podcast. Where have you got any idea of where it's going to go next, or are you just hanging on for the ride and see where it goes?
Hanging on for the ride.
Yeah, much of 2020, just taking it one day to the next.
Exactly.
But now that we've made these connections, to bring it back to that kind of metaphor of seeds, right? I feel like we've planted these seeds of friendship, of getting to know people, and we want to see how that grows. We want to see how we can nurture that. Yeah. And we believe in what Forest Green Rovers is doing for the cause of veganism, for the cause of a better future, not just for a select few, but for many people and through sport. So as much as we can support them and we have the time, we do both have full-time jobs, so we still have to attend to those. But it's whatever we can do, man. We're along for the ride.
Yeah. And then no plans. We started some cool stuff here though. We started New York City FGR, so we started a little FGR club here in the city.
Oh wow, really?
And it's growing, man. It's awesome. We started with a few of us, and I don't know how many, probably 13, 14 of us now, but I think it's gonna keep growing. And it's so fun. We have a little text group. We have we're going to start getting together once everyone's vaccinated and the weather gets nice. We're going to get together and watch matches together outside over some beers. FGR America is another thing that we've been working with some others on. And there's so many fans and new fans coming aboard all the time. So I think the message is getting out there, and it's just so awesome to see.
I love that. What a cool idea. The FGR America fan club. I love it.
Coming over. We're going to take over. We're going to go to a away day somewhere, and we're just going to have 50 of us.
Well, I'm going to start them.
That's right.
I'll be at the Wailing Nailers Gloucestershire supporters club. Oh, sorry. Yeah. So I've got the Sea Shepherd stuff on my mind. The Wheeling Nailers supporters club. We're based in Gloucestershire. We're going to have about 1,000 people all watching Wheeling Nailers games.
I don't even know if they're televised. But I love it.
We'll find a way.
We'll find a way.
I'll get the chairman on. It'll be awesome.
Oh, I love it.
Look, fellas, it's been great chatting with you, and I just encourage everybody to check out the podcast. It's so much fun, a great kind of companion piece, I think, to watching Forest Green Rovers games. So, and a wonderful way. Although there's thousands of miles apart, I do feel like there's a genuine sense of Forest Green that you've managed to capture, even though different countries, different continent, different part of the world, etc., different experiences of football, but it does feel so. There's something very Forest Green about it. So I love what you're doing. Thanks so much.
Hey, thank you, Jim.
Thank you, and same to you, man. Your pod, we're huge fans of your pod, Jim. So keep doing what you're doing. I think you're doing, the Lord's work.
You're educating us. If you can educate us two fools, you can educate a lot of people.
Exactly.
I appreciate it.
Well, thanks for having us on,
guys.
Jim.
Till next time.
Until next time.